Hoping the Packers bye week brought most of the players back to health and focus, because this coming Sunday, it's AR-12 versus TB-12. We preview the Packers at Buccaneers game and share more of your great insights coming up on your Packers Fan Podcast.
I'm Scott Clark from the Gaming Outsider Podcast, and we may have already celebrated the win over the Falcons last week, but now that the bye week is over, it's time to look ahead to Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. We're also sharing your experiences visiting the great Lambeau Field, and we just might have a tale or two of our own as well.
I love story time. That is good stuff. Wayne Henderson here from MediaVoiceovers.com on this 210th episode of your Packers Fan Podcast, and I'm getting more and more amped up, as well as more confident as we get closer to Sunday's game in Tampa. This week on the show, the Packers get back at it, and it being the quest for home field advantage in the playoffs, baby. That would be the ultimate loyal to the soil moment. And with that, we will preview Sunday's Packers at Buccaneers game in Tampa.
And along with that, we'll have my keys to a Packers victory over the Bucs. And as always, we've also got your weekly Facebook and Twitter poll results to share with you, as well as all of your great listener voicemails, emails, and comments from social media, which I believe this week is going to include some fabulous tales of visiting the great Lambeau Field. I'm looking very forward to hearing those for sure.
They are coming up. In fact, they're coming up right now. Now, of course,
Yes.
After the Packers beat the Buccaneers Sunday afternoon, give us a call right after the game at 920-3PACK-GO. Or from anywhere in the world, you can focus and gather your thoughts, record your message on your phone or laptop, attach it to an email, and send it to feedback@PackersFanPodcast.com. Again, that's feedback@PackersFanPodcast.com. And the deadline to get your messages in to be part of next week's show is Sunday at midnight Central Time. Thanks again for all of your support, your feedback, and go Pack Go.
So let's go ahead. Well, Wayne, I should ask you, do you want to tell our stories first, or do you want to go to the listeners first? Where do you want to go with this?
Let's go ahead and hit up the listeners first, and then if there are no duplicates, I'll share a story or two or whatever afterwards.
All right. I got one that I'm a little embarrassed to share, but I will tell you a pretty good story. Let's kick things off, because last week, we got to give a shout out to Rick in Wisconsin, who had this great suggestion. And what he said was he wanted the listeners to call in with their stories about the time that they had actually been to a Packers game and tell some cool stories or which game they went to. So let's kick things off with James from Montana.
Go Pack Go!
Go Pack Go! This is James from Montana, first-time caller, long-time listener. I just had to call for this bye-week episode. I'm loving the Packers this season. 4-0, baby! Rodgers is having a blast. He seems to be so relaxed and calm, and he's just having a good time. You can just see he's always having fun out there. Figured I'd call in with a Packers story about my first visit to the stadium. I guess all my life I was a Packer fan, and being from Montana, I don't really get to go to games. So all my life I was growing up, huge Packer fan. Brett Favre was the only quarterback I ever knew, and I absolutely loved him. He was my hero. And I always wished I could go see a Packer game and watch Favre play. And it's almost like I wished on a monkey's paw, because I got that wish, and it was Favre's first game back in Lambeau as a Viking, and he beat us pretty good. It was a blast being in Lambeau. It was a fun game for the most part. The stadium and the crowd was electric, high-fiving and celebrating with people I don't even know next to me. It was so much fun. I do wish I would have been able to see Favre in green and gold, but hey, what can you do? Love the podcast. Keep up the great work. Bleed green and gold till dead and cold. Go Pack Go!
Awesome, James. Thank you so much for the voicemail. Love hearing from first-time callers for sure. And I got to say, your sound quality on whatever device you're recording, as I assume it was a phone because there was some background noise, might be the best audio we've had from a call-in in a long time. Here's what I love about James's story. He was talking about going to see Favre but he was in a Vikings jersey, but which is bittersweet. But the really great part is he was talking about like high-fiving with perfect strangers. That is my absolute favorite thing about going to a game. You have that instant connection of the Packers just by sitting around these people, and no one thinks you're weird if you turn around and offer a high five when something cool happens. Everybody is just instantly best friends. And that's my best thing ever. And not only that, but Packer fans are actually, for the most part, obviously there's bad apples everywhere, but Packers fans are even respectful to the Bears fans. I know there's some good-mannered ribbing and stuff like that, but for the most part, it's pretty amicable. And I always really appreciate that. Going to Soldier Field, that did not happen to me.
Yeah, there is something magical about Packers fans for the most part. And part of the reason that James from Montana's voicemail sounded so great because he recorded it on his phone and then emailed it to feedback@PackersFanPodcast.com, cutting out the middleman known as the cellular companies.
Nice.
And what they may do to the sound quality of your messages, which is going to come up again a little bit later. And when I saw the Packers play the Bears at Lambeau Field, there was a lot of that good-natured ribbing you talk about, which is totally opposite from the Rams' first game back in L.A., regular season game, hosting the Seahawks at the Coliseum. There were fights everywhere. There was just people going nuts. A guy like a few rows in front of me was snorting coke off of his iPhone screen, and it was
holy cow!
It was just insane compared to being at Lambeau Field. I want to be back at Lambeau where the magic is.
Yeah, so do a lot of people, unfortunately.
Go, Pack, go! Go, Pack, go! Sorry, I know it's not a game, but I saw the tweet or post about telling a story at a Packer game. I unfortunately have never been to one at Lambeau Stadium because I'm originally from Fort Heights, Illinois, which is like 30 or 40 miles from Chicago. So I have been to one at Soldier Stadium, which is an experience to say the least. I still had a blast. The stadium is not the best stadium. It's really cool as far as the view is really nice from every direction. And if I'm being very frank and I'm very thankful, I went with my family who are unfortunately all Bear fans, you know, for better or for worse. You got to love them no matter what. They love me no matter what, even though they sent me to LA because I'm a Packers fan. But all the fans were pretty cool. You know, it was a lot of fun. We drank a lot of beer, a lot of food, probably way too much food. But it was a fun experience. We won that day. It was the Bears, so we usually win that day. And I've also been to one in San Francisco. That, unfortunately, we got smashed pretty bad. I forget what year it was, but it was rough. The fans were pretty cool, but it just the fact that we got smashed so bad kind of left a sour taste in my mouth. But that stadium is also very nice. The parking situation is atrocious. But my overall favorite experience was the one in Soldier Stadium in Chicago. Just the fact that all the fans were made it so welcoming, because I was afraid that, if I go there, it's going to be problems, you know, the rivalry. And, you know, in your mind you have it that it's going to be some sort of watch too much TV. But it was a great experience. So for me, my favorite Packer game I've ever been to is the one at Soldier Stadium where we beat the Bears. I wish I could remember the year. I think it was still Jay Cutler because it was a while back since I've been to Chicago. So love you guys. Go Pack Go. Green and gold till I'm dead and gold. Hopefully we win it this year 4-0. Enjoy the bye week. And hopefully the Lakers win.
Andre, so awesome to hear from you. And due to the magic of time travel, yes, the Lakers did win yet again. LeBron is on quite a roll. And Andre, so good to hear from you. Thanks for sharing those stories. I didn't know that you made it all the way up to Frisco to see a Packers game, as well as back when you were in Chicago, but not yet in LA. But then again, now we have a shiny new stadium, and maybe the Packers will be coming back to LA strong and healthy in a couple of years. We'll have to find a way and come down there, Andre.
It sounds like he had a better experience at Soldier Field than I did. But to be fair, I got a lot of flack because of how I dressed up to go to a Packers-Bears game at Lambeau Field. I was wearing, I had all these green and gold beads. I had a green and gold wig on, face paint. I went to the full nine. And the best part about that story, outside of the middle fingers and FUs I got all day long from what I was wearing, was I went with one of my best friends who was a hardcore Bears fan, and it was his birthday. It was a surprise birthday gift for him. We bought him tickets to the game, and he and I went. And the night before was his birthday, and he had a little bit too much to drink that night. So when I went to pick him up for the game the next morning, he was hurting quite a bit. He is a little under the weather, but I got him in the car, and I have this great picture that I'll post in our Facebook group tomorrow of he and I riding in my Jeep down to Chicago to go to this game, and he is passed out in the passenger seat of my Jeep on the way to the game, not like after the game, on the way to the game. And I'm decked out in green and gold, everything, and he's just it's great. I'll make sure to post that picture in the Facebook group because it's pretty outstanding.
Interesting twist to being passed out on the way to the game instead of on the way home.
Exactly.
Go, Pat, go indeed, Wayne Henderson. I enjoy hearing that coming out of your mouth in the preface to leaving a voicemail. Jared in Colorado, calling in to share my first in-person Packers game experience, and the only one so far to date. It's overall a pretty fun story, and it's going to sound bad at first, but there is a silver lining, I promise you. But first of all, it was the 2015 game against the Broncos in Denver. It was when I was living in Denver at the time, and then and whatnot. But unfortunately, that was also statistically to this day Aaron Rodgers' worst game of his career. And that was the season when the Broncos had that just absolutely unstoppable defense, and which of course ended up winning them the Super Bowl that year. Anyways, so it was definitely hard to watch for that obvious reason. I was super stoked to see the Packers throw a beat down, and boy howdy was that the opposite. I enjoy that experience, number one, because we got the tickets from my roommate's brother who couldn't make that game. He had season tickets, and we were only a few rows behind the 20-yard line. And we only paid $80 for both tickets. So obviously super unheard of, and I was really excited about it. But I really enjoyed watching the Packers in person. But the thing that really stuck with me, and the reason why there is silver lining to this, there was a Broncos fan who, let's just say, may have indulged himself a little bit too much with some of the beers and whatnot, and was being quite unruly, to the point where he was yelling directly into the ear of a fellow Packers fan a couple of rows in front of me, and it was to the point where, other Broncos fans were getting after him. But the reason why there's a silver lining to this is because this person was a much better man than I. He did not even move. He just sat there and just watched the game until eventually, of course, security came and said, dude, you need to stop. And it was just one of those moments where I really got an appreciation for Packers fans, and the fact that, despite all this nonsense that was coming out of this dude's mouth, and again, he was literally yelling directly into someone's ear. I mean, who does that? But he just maintained his cool and just kept watching the game, and I thought that was really kind of a classy thing. So, and let me clarify. Broncos fans as a whole are pretty fun. He was definitely the outlier, but despite the fact that the Packers lost, it was still awesome. I mean, it was my first Packers game in person. It was a lot of fun. Paid nothing for the tickets, and I got to see why Packers fans.
All right, Jared, sounded like you might have got cut off on that one, but thank you so much for the voicemail. I know that your story was a little bit of a bummer because of the beatdown that the Packers and Aaron Rodgers had with his terrible game, but it's a great story, and that's a testament to Packers fans and just how patient and willing to put up with opposing fans they are for the most part.
And Jared, that voicemail and that beautiful story calls for a go Pack go indeed. It was so good, even if it was Aaron Rodgers' worst game statistically. Which reminds me of, I did see Brett Favre play one time as a Jet. That was not Brett Favre's best game.
No,
but then he went to the Vikings and became Brett Favre again. But I love the silver lining. That's always good to look for those. $80 for tickets, just a few rows behind the 20-yard line. That's stellar. Probably, like you said, due to being season tickets. And Jared actually did send a direct message to finish up his voicemail because he got cut off at the last second. He almost got it all in. He just wanted to say that he was able to see why, at that game, why Packers fans are the best in the world.
Awesome. Love to hear it.
And that as well calls for a Go Pack Go indeed.
I fell asleep and failed. So this is from the game last week on Monday night when we beat the Falcons. Because we came out great that night of late. Go Pack Go. Go Pack Go. Reach out and share. It's a family affair. Go Pack Go. Go Pack Go. If you care at all, please make a call. 920-3-PACK-GO. Bleed green and gold till dead and cold. Go Pack Go. Go Pack Go. Gents, we're 4-0 with more to go. This is 1265 fan. Pack 1. Talk to you after the bye.
Bye. Awesome. I love your calls, 1265 fan. More fabulous poetry and touching on the fact that Packers games and the Packers Fan Podcast, it is like a family affair. And thanks for reminding folks to give a call at 920-3-PACK-GO.
I like the variation on your, 4-0, Go Pack Go, 4-0 and more to go. I like that. That was a good one.
Yeah, 15 more to go? Something like that?
15. Let's bring it.
Hey guys, this is David out in Virginia. Just wanted to share my favorite story about going to a Packers game. I'm originally actually from Alaska, and so my dad and I flew down in 2011 down to Chicago for the NFC Championship game. Such an experience. That was actually my first ever Packers game. And, it was a great one, obviously, with the win and making it to the Super Bowl. It was pretty interesting outside of the stadium when we were going around Chicago in our Green Bay gear. People were pretty nasty and everything, but actually inside the stadium, everyone was pretty fun. Good people to be around, actually. It's such a great experience, and we actually got to see Darren College, who's up from Alaska, and meet him. So great experience. Great podcast, guys, and keep it going. Go Pack Go.
Thanks a lot, David, from the 3 Dudes, 1 Beer podcast. Really appreciate the voicemail there, man. He's also a listener of the Gaming Outsider, a good buddy of mine. So that is quite a haul to go all the way from Alaska to Chicago to see it. But, it's worth it for the NFC Championship game, especially in 2011. That was a good game to go to. Whew. So that's really awesome. So congrats. That was in Chicago. Yeah, that was it. And that game earned me, I won a bet with the same buddy who passed out in my Jeep. We had a bet that game because we watched it at my house. And there's a picture we have of the two of us like face to face with like these angry looks on our face, like we're like about to get into a fight or something. And we made a bet that whoever lost had to wear something of the opposing team during the Super Bowl. And obviously I won that bet. So my buddy Chris had to wear a Packer sweatshirt. And if you've ever met him, he's a bigger fella. And it was difficult to find a Packer sweatshirt that we could get. And it was super tight on him. And if you remember that video I posted on Facebook the other day of me singing Bang on the Drum, he was in there in that video wearing that tight t-shirt. So you can go back and check it out. But good game.
Those are good bets. I made a similar bet with my nephew here in town a number of years ago. And during the Super Bowl, he did have to wear a cheese head. He's a big Cowboys fan, wearing a cheese head.
Nice.
I made sure to get a photo of that as well. David, I love that story. And I love how you emphasized that you flew down from Alaska. Can you imagine doing that drive?
That would be a long drive. Oh, my goodness.
What a trip being in that epic game. I remember so much from that game. Being in the stadium as the Packers earned the right to go to the Super Bowl, and to cap it off, met Darren College all the same day.
That's quite a trip. That's a good weekend.
That is a damn good weekend, David. Thanks again for giving us a call at 920-3PACK-GO.
Okay, you guys, you know who it is. I'm going to do a low-key, early introduction. This is Megan, and it's kind of windy because I'm on the waters of Lake Jeff right now. I'm about to go wakeboard and listen to Go Pack Go song. Who is the only quarterback that has no interceptions, baby? Let's go! I do have my co-host to it. I told him you just talk, no thinking, talk.
Happy Sunday, all. Happy bye week. I'm a little torn. We're not playing.
Aaron Rodgers, dude. Aaron Rodgers. Best of the best. There's a GOAT for a reason, and it needs to be taken by Aaron freaking Rodgers.
Megan and Pete, thank you so much. Even calling 920-3PACK-GO while wakeboarding. There was more to the call, but so much of it was blown out by the wind noise. Or Megan, I'm not sure if maybe you were underwater. It was fun either way, but we had to trim it out to the best stuff that was nice and easy to understand. It was so good. No interceptions. That's a good point because even who was one of the last remaining one? I think it was Patrick Mahomes, and he threw an interception yesterday. So now AR-12 is the lone quarterback this season with no interceptions.
Do we even have any turnovers? Do we have any turnovers in game 4? I don't remember. We haven't had. It's insane.
It's insane. Let's keep that continuing on. Megan, you got the number. We knew who you were, but you did in the middle let us know who you were. Thank you.
Hey, Wayne, this is Rick Snowdy, Rick from Wisconsin on Twitter. And I believe I have listened to every episode of the Packers podcast because I started listening to you when you did the little short episodes called Wayne's Take on Lost. And I listened to pretty much everything you've done except for the Dancing with the Stars. It wasn't really a show I was into. But here's my Packers story. My first time ever seeing the Packers was at Milwaukee County Stadium when they played the Seattle Seahawks. But that's not the memorable game. The memorable game was actually a preseason game in 1993, and Brett Favre was the starter for Green Bay. They were playing the Kansas City Chiefs, and Joe Montana was the starter there. And seeing those two great quarterbacks, even though it's just for the opening series, as I recall, was kind of a pretty memorable thing. And looking back at the rosters from that day, there was also the Hall of Fame running back Marcus Allen and the Hall of Fame defensive player Reggie White on the field that night. And Brett Favre's backups in that game went on to be starters at other teams. They were Ty Detmer and Mark Brunell. So it's memorable because of the amount of talent we saw in that one game. And I have been to Lambeau as well, but I miss going to the old games in Milwaukee because it's so much closer to here. So I hope you enjoy that story.
Awesome, Rick. Thank you so much. And yes, I can relate to going to see a game at County Stadium. Although I did not see the Seahawks game, I saw the Vikings game. I was hoping we were at the same game, but alas, that didn't work out. I like the idea of, an older, experienced quarterback playing a brand new quarterback. Joe Montana versus Brett Favre, 93. That would have been his second year with the Packers. And by the way, Ty Detmer, but Mark Brunell, those are names I haven't heard in a long time. I think that was a blast from the past right there.
Yeah, those are classics. Mark went on to be the quarterback for the Jaguars for a number of years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, sometimes those preseason games can be fun because of those types of events that went on, Rick. And yeah, Rick goes way, way back when I only had one show, and I used to think, because, podcasting back in 2005, 2007, we didn't know all about niching down. So I had one show, and I'd do a segment talking about the Packers and a segment talking about Dancing with the Stars, maybe a little bit about Lost, and throw it all against the wall. Then of course, much like how Joni Loves Chachi was a spinoff from Happy Days, this Packers Fan Podcast was a spinoff from Tuning In with Wayne Henderson.
I just like that your podcasting career started with a podcast that could have been called Deep Thoughts with Wayne Henderson.
I'm listening.
We've also got some great stories from our Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community, which you can find at facebook.com. Marty Koopman says, I am physically disabled individual that was lucky to get season tickets after the renovation of Lambeau. I was part of the focus group that met several times prior to the renovation process so that they could hear thoughts and suggestions firsthand from people with disabilities. I think that they did a spectacular job of giving disabled people different choices of seating options. I have nothing but great experiences with the staff and the facilities there. I can't speak for all disabilities, but they really did a good job with accessibility for people in wheelchairs. The ADA was all about giving equal access and not special access. The Packers organization did an outstanding job considering that they were working with a stadium built so long ago. That is a great story I was not expecting to hear, but I love it. Thank you so much, Marty.
That was a great one to see that posted in the Facebook community at packerscommunity.com. Marty, thank you so much for sharing that. And yeah, taking a stadium that's from the 50s and trying to retrofit it, not only to squeeze in thousands of more fans, but also to make it accessible and not just in one little area, but in various areas around the stadium. It's good to know the Packers worked on that as well. So thanks again for sharing your story, Marty. For me, I don't want to share every story I did because we don't have all night, but I'll touch on some of the highlights. First time ever seeing the Packers before even making it to Lambeau Field was, I believe, the year after we won the Super Bowl with Brett Favre. The Packers were on a roll. I guess we got overconfident the next year. And they played down in San Diego when the Chargers were down in San Diego. And I took my wife and our kids down to see that game. This was back in the day when you had to stand in line at Ticketmaster to get your tickets. I didn't even have to buy them secondhand, and we got tickets on like the 45-yard line, about halfway up. They were perfect. They were in the shade, and the Packers and Brett Favre just demolished the Chargers. And over half the crowd were Packers fans. And so by the third quarter, when we were up like 35-10, almost all the Chargers fans left, and all you heard was "Go Pack, go!" And it was just so exciting that we knew we had to make it to Lambeau Field. So a number of years later, we did make it to Lambeau Field. Unfortunately, it was the season with Brett Favre when we went 4-12 or something. And the game we went to, Monday Night Football, it was freezing cold, 29 degrees at kickoff, dropping from there. And stupid Vikings kicker who used to be on the Packers kicked a game-winning field goal with like 2 seconds to go in the game, and it was a frustrating loss. And we were frozen.
Yeah, it always sucks when you go to a bad weather game and you don't win. At least like you can walk away, feel good about the win, even though it's cold and crappy out. But yeah.
We flew all the way to Wisconsin for that.
Yeah, that's a bummer. Hey, welcome to the Midwest, man. You're going to come visit. You might as well get it all at one time.
We weren't prepared. I wasn't in touch with you and Troy at that time. You guys would have had us hooked up right. I mean, the best we did was buying those hand warmer things and putting them in our boots and putting them in our gloves, and it didn't help.
Oh, man. Yeah, I should show you the stages. I think I did last year.
You
I
did.
show you the stages, yeah. It's kind of nuts how many layers you can put on for sure. Well, my story, I'm almost apprehensive to tell my story because it's a super not flattering story.
Let's make sure this is recording.
Yeah, right?
Okay, it's on.
So I went to a game with superfan Aaron Peterson. We went to a Monday night game against Minnesota, and if you've ever met me, you know that I am super cheap. I am incredibly cheap, and I do not like to spend $9 on beers in the stadium, but I like to have a buzz when I go to a game. So decided to do a little pre-gaming before the game to kind of have a little bit of thing going on in there, and I totally miscalculated, drank about a half a bottle of rum.
Whoa.
Tailgating.
Scott.
And walking into the stadium, I was pretty bad. In fact, I think at some point, I said to some woman standing by me, I said, "You know how drunk I am?" And she's like, "How drunk are you?" I said, "I'm finding you attractive." Yeah, those words came out of my mouth.
Are you? Maybe you're just misremembering because you were under the influence, and that's really not
Aaron
what
confirmed
happened.
Aaron confirmed it.
Oh, he'll confirm anything.
Yeah. So that happened, and then the entire game, I was seeing double. Aaron would tell me that I kept shaking my head trying to get rid of whatever was going on, and that didn't happen.
I think that's because that lady punched you in the face.
Probably. But the best part was at the end of the night, and this is the best part. At the end of the night, we had a deal that we were going to drive to this game, and he filled up his gas tank, and then drove to the game. And then I was supposed to fill it back up before we left Green Bay to go back down. So that was how we split the gas. So we were at the gas station. And by the time we got to the gas station, I was passed out in the car. And he kept trying to wake me up. And he's like, Scott, you said you're going to pay for gas. I didn't wake up. A little louder. Scott, you said you're going to pay for gas. A little louder. Scott! And for whatever reason, I sat up in my chair in the car, and all I said was, monkeys don't dance! And then I passed back out again. No clue, man. No idea, but that was that was my story.
Oh, wow.
I wish you all could see the look on Wayne's face right now, because he just has no idea what to say. But yeah, I want to get that on the t-shirt now.
For words.
Monkeys don't dance.
Monkeys don't dance.
So,
and
yeah.
you still owe Aaron Peterson a tank of gas.
Oh, no, I paid him for it eventually, but it was, yeah.
Oh, well, okay, the silver lining, I see.
But that was definitely in no shape. And he was going to dig my wallet out of my pants, so thank goodness for that. But
hey,
yeah, lots of really positive memories of going to that, but that is the definite funniest memory of me, and I hope you guys appreciate my story, because not a flattering one, like I said.
And speaking of fans in the stands at Packers games, it's not going to happen for a while, at least not at Lambeau Field. Fox 11 came out with an article just the other day that the Packers announced fans will not be allowed to attend games at Lambeau Field after all, indefinitely. So that November 1st home game that we were all counting on, Vikings at Packers, nope, no fans. And who knows? Maybe things can get turned around so that fans can attend the NFC Championship game at Lambeau Field, but we'll have to wait and see. So you too should go ahead and join the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community group if you have not already at packerscommunity.com, especially for this Sunday on game day. We always have a live game discussion thread that's always a fun way to share your highs and, heaven forbid, any lows that might happen during the game.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to emails. Our first one comes from Steven Verheeren. He says he's checking in. Looking forward to your thoughts on the Buccaneers game, and their most recent game was a loss to the Bears. Great episode of the podcast last week, and the caller asked for stories of people's first Packers game. I've never attended a game in which the Packers played, although I was close to going to a game, but it was going to be so cold at Soldier Field that I didn't go. It's never too cold to go to a Packer game, man. Just say it's never too cold.
I lived through it, and I'm from California.
Yeah. Steven also says that he's happy that we finally set the stakes for our 2020 Wager O Fun, and thought it was interesting that the loser will definitely have to pay long before last year's Culver's-related bet does. And remember, go Pack Go. Yeah, that's true. It's gonna be a while before it's probably safe for us to get together and have that Culver's together. But man, that's gonna make for some great pictures. I think that's gonna be awesome.
Indeed. And details on the Wager O Fun coming up later when we get to that. Another email. Caleb, Kathy, and Roy Fisher from Green Bay. I've had the pleasure of seeing 4 Packers games when they've played the Arizona Cardinals. I must say the majority of the fans in Arizona were all Packers fans. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
I remember enjoying the fun of watching Brett Favre play. It has and always will be a good memory of mine. I'm just hoping to see Aaron Rodgers play someday. And with that, go Pack Go, bleed green and gold, till dead and cold. Thank you very much, Caleb, Kathy, and Roy Fisher in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And now we're getting ready. The Packers are back at it. So we wanted to know, how do you, the listener, think the Packers are going to fare this coming Sunday afternoon against the Buccaneers? And on this one, I will not seek out your opinion until we preview the game and give our official predictions for the scores, but wanted the listeners to chime in. Will the Packers win by 14 or more points? Will the Packers win by around a touchdown? Will the Packers win just a close one? Or the Packers may not have enough points when time runs out?
You sound so depressed whenever you read the negative selection. It's just like you're afraid to say it, as if saying the words is going to make it happen in your mind.
Love it, Scott. 39% of you voted to say the Packers are going to win by 14 or more points, which I love the sound of that. Another 36% said we're going to win by a touchdown. 17% said we're going to win a close one, and 8% saying that the Packers will not score enough points.
And the best comment that came from Facebook was Jared McChinney-Kurz, who said, hopefully Brady forgets what down it is again. Oh my goodness, that was one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen. A quarterback of that caliber not realizing what down it is. I mean, armchair quarterback here. You know what I'm saying? But it really makes me wonder how he would have played that play differently if he knew it was 4th down and not 3rd down.
Oh, the one before?
Yeah. Like it was crazy to me because just his mindset alone probably changed the dynamic of that play so much. And he probably would have made a different decision if he knew it was the last one. So,
yeah, probably so. That was pretty shocking. And he has since laughed about it. And it's just, one of those things. But the
look on his face of like, what do you mean it's 4th down? No, there's not 5 downs, dude. There's only 4.
And because his arguments have been so convincing over the years when he was with the Patriots, I was thinking that the refs were probably in the wrong and that he was right.
Yeah, when he realized it was actually 1st down for the other team, he definitely looked deflated.
Wah, wah, wah.
I couldn't help it.
I totally understand. Your 4-0 Green Bay Packers are rekindling the Battle of the Bays, once again playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Sunday, October 18th at 3:25 p.m. Central Time. And as is the custom, the Packers lead the all-time series against the Buccaneers 33-21. And of course, there's a tie in there. This is the way.
This is the way.
Did you hear that Tom Brady is now a Buccaneer?
I did. Yeah, if you have any new sportscast on, yes, everybody is aware that Tom Brady's a Buccaneer.
For anybody that may not know, I just wanted to lay that out there.
It does look weird, doesn't it?
Very weird.
Yeah.
Very, very weird. A limited amount of fans are going to be allowed into the game in Tampa, and whether or not we're in a pandemic, the ticket reseller market is in full swing. I checked a couple days ago. Cheapest seats are around $204. Go up from there if you want to.
I'm really surprised they're that low, to be honest with you.
Well, those are probably way up in the nosebleeds by that stupid pirate ship they have in the stands and all that stuff. But anyways, wanted to let you know that if you're willing to fly down to Tampa Bay, Florida, you could see the Packers play, I guess. Jared Mancini-Kerr also shared this encouraging update just about an hour or so ago with an update on the injuries with the Packers. It's Buccaneers week, and almost all our players are back. We've got Equinemius St. Brown and Kamal Martin. They return to practice. But here's the super good news. Devontae Adams, Kenny Clark, Rashawn Gary, and Mercedes Lewis all practiced. Gives me all kinds of hope for that 14-plus point victory.
If we can get past Tampa, I feel like we've got a really good shot. I mean, not just because of Tampa, mostly because of Tom Brady. But, man, I was worried about the Saints. I'm really worried about the Buccaneers. And I know they just lost against the Bears, but still, I'm worried.
Yeah, and looking further down the road, the 49ers do not look anything like the team that was playing last year. I think everybody figured out the secret. I mean, did you see the Miami Dolphins roll up like 40-plus points on them?
It's crazy. It's insane. I never would have guessed that. There's a lot of survivor pool people that were probably really upset this weekend.
That's why they play the game. The weather's going to be partly sunny, humid, with a chance of a thunderstorm, about 86 degrees Fahrenheit at kickoff, which is about 30 degrees Celsius. So Packer players, please stay hydrated. This ought to be the last super hot or humid game of the year for the Packers.
Probably. And by the way, Wayne, I do have some unfortunate news about the game this weekend. It pains me to say that I'm going to be missing kickoff this weekend.
Now, wait a minute. This is something we've all agreed upon. What's going on, Scott?
Well, unfortunately, you're listening. My stepdad's health is failing, and I'm actually flying down to Texas to pick him up to come live with us here in Rockford. And my flight return flight on Sunday is at like 3:45. So unless the game is on in the airport right before I get on the plane, or maybe I can stream it on my Hulu or something, I'll try to at least watch kickoff. But there's a good chance that I might miss kickoff for the first time in several years, and I'm really not happy about it. But unfortunately, family comes first.
Oh, absolutely, family comes first. I'm sorry, Scott. This is it's something that you've been waiting because of pandemic and all sorts of other things to get this taken care of. So I'm glad that you're able to get this done, and that's totally understandable.
Yeah.
But you will be in Florida, so I think there's a good chance you'll happen to, on your way to the plane, kick off. Okay, now we can go.
Well, not Florida, actually. He's been moved to Austin, so it'll be flying to Austin. So maybe I'll get some of that. I hope I don't get any of that bad cowboy juju, but, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, be very careful after we saw what happened to Dak Prescott. Be very careful.
Oh, my goodness. Let's go ahead and move on to my keys to yet another Packers victory by beating the Buccaneers. First off, don't get beat by the Heat. Wayne alluded to it earlier. The Packers are definitely out of their element.
What?
Is there something wrong?
No, I just want to make everybody aware that if the Packers have their first loss for the season, that it's your fault this weekend.
Oh, that's my lovely wife that just popped into...
I can see Wayne laughing. I can't hear him. Just so everybody understands.
Okay, that was my wife, everybody. Did not realize my wife was standing right behind me.
Oh, she's been there about 20 minutes.
I apparently, so... Anyway, back to my keys of victory. Like I said, let's not get beat by the Heat. The Packers are definitely out of their element in this summer-like weather down in Tampa, but hopefully, since it hasn't gotten terribly cold in the Midwest just yet, it won't be quite the culture shock that we would kind of expect. Still, hydration is key, as it's going to do all we can to keep our defense off the field, in order to avoid getting overexerted and giving up any unnecessary points. Also, the Packers need to be prepared for backlash. The Bucs just lost to the Bears in embarrassing fashion, and the first time Brady lost this year, he came back with a vengeance. The green and gold ones should be prepared to face a team that will stop at nothing to recover from their most recent loss. If we've ever needed to be aggressive on defense, now is the time. Get through that line and plant the bad number 12 firmly on their own soil to keep him from doing enough damage. Lastly, this is sometimes a repeat on this one, but take the lead early and keep it. We've had a bit of a longer break than the Bucs, with coming out of the bye, and the Packers should use that to their advantage to strike hard and fast as early as possible. With that said, Tom Brady is the king of comebacks and will never give up. We've seen that time and time again. And as well as the Packers have played during the first 4 weeks, they have let their opponents score in the final quarter more than I'm comfortable with, and that just can't be an option against one of the most determined quarterbacks in the league. So please, keep that buttoned up and play up to the final quarter, not just the third quarter. And that's it.
I love it. Those are excellent keys to victory. I'm personally rooting for the Packers to provide the Buccaneers with a shutout so that we don't have to worry about allowing these late game points, but we'll see.
Well, speaking of our predictions, we're going to move on very quickly to our 2020 season wager o' fun. The prize this year is, if I happen to lose, we've decided that I'm going to be singing Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, some song from them. We're going to work on rewriting the lyrics with something green and gold focused, just in case. So yeah, if I lose, I'll be singing Frankie Valli and the Seasons, and I apologize in advance.
Yes, but we cannot let that stand in the way of destiny, because if I, Wayne Henderson, by some chance end up not having enough victories when the season ends, I will do a Packers-inspired version of the Lambeau favorite, Todd Rundgren's Bang on the Drum All Day. Now, of course, Scott, you sang this about 10 years ago, but
yes.
I'm going to do this because after how the Packers-Falcon game played out, I'm going to give Scott the win because he did correctly guess the Falcons score perfectly.
Oh, look at you.
So we are now Wayne 3, Scott 1.
It should be like Wayne 3, Scott a half, but I'll take it. The half points really don't mean anything when there's just two of us, right?
Yes. So with that, I'm hoping to bring home victory number 4 by predicting the Packers are going to win 35-27. Although in my heart, I'm rooting for 70-0, but I'm going to predict 35-27.
I think it's going to be a lot closer than that. I think you're right in predicting that it's going to be a higher scoring game on both sides because we got two of the best quarterbacks in the league. But I think it's going to be much, much closer. We're going to win by a field goal. So I'm going to say Packers 33, Buccaneers 30.
Whoa, that is way too close for comfort.
Yeah, but we're due for a heart attack Pack game at this point, aren't we? We're overdue.
I thought we've changed our ways. Let's see what happens this coming Sunday. The NFC North, the standings are all askew, thanks to some teams having a bye week and others not yet. The Packers, though, still in first place no matter what. Like you said, Packers 4-0. The Bears are 4-1. I can't believe they won. And the Lions,
oh my goodness,
they're at 1-3 because they had their bye week this week, just like the Packers. Although I did see some memes online that somehow the Lions did manage to lose this week, even though they were on their bye week. And the Vikings, we needed the Seahawks to lose, and you can't even count on the purple freaks to pull that one out. Vikings
What's
are
so
now
crazy is I walked into that game going, okay, I'm going to watch this game and just watch Seattle destroy Minnesota just because I just assume that's going to happen. I turn around and they're up by 2 scores. And I'm like, okay.
This is different.
This is different. And then, of course, they just blow it.
Yeah,
because they're the Vikings.
And the Seahawks had those absolutely hideous lime green. Ugh, those uniforms stink. And the Vikings are now 1-4. They are not in the first place in the NFC North, as pundits on television predicted. So, yeah,
dead last actually. Speaking of, you mentioned it a little bit, but I got to talk about Dak Preston's ankle injury. I actually missed it happening live. When I turned the game back on, it was, all the aftermath and all the paramedics and everything went around. I actually went back and rewound it to go watch it, and that was tough to watch. It was just bent the completely wrong way. And the craziest part is as soon as it happened, Dak just kind of picks up his own leg and points at it and points to the trainers and says, "Hey guys, get over here. Like, this is serious." Like, he wasn't screaming in pain. He wasn't like, he just, yeah, right. It's time, guys. And then he's smiling in the hospital. Like this could be a huge blow to the Cowboys, and he's just smiling.
Well,
crazy.
You've heard of the effects of physical shock. I think that's what played into all those things. Luckily, I didn't see it live either. I kind of had the game on in the background because we didn't have another game to watch, and I was just piddling around the house, getting some things done. And then my son texts me saying, "Did you see that horrific injury?" And I'm like, "No, I don't want to see a horrific injury." I accidentally saw a screenshot of it later, but yeah. So yeah, nobody wants to see that happen to anybody in the NFL. That's terrible. So hopefully Dak Prescott will be feeling better pretty soon, because they did actually stay and win the game, beat the Giants.
Yeah, I learned that Andy Dalton was a Cowboy. I didn't even realize he was a Cowboy.
You didn't know that?
I didn't. I had no clue. I was like, since when did Andy Dalton become a Cowboy? I've just been out of the loop on Andy Dalton for some reason.
Can't keep up with those Bengals anymore, can you?
I know, right? But he pulled it off, man. It was. I know that Dallas is like freaking out, about their possibilities, but Dalton's still a good quarterback. He looked solid. So
yeah, I think he's going to do all right. And I think one of the more shocking things, I already talked about the Dolphins beating up on the 49ers, which was beautiful. But how about the Cleveland Browns being 4-1, I believe? Who would have thought? Could this be their year? Yeah, the only game they lost was opening weekend, I believe, and now they're reeling off wins like they're the AFC version of the Packers or something. Could there be a Packers-Browns Super Bowl? Could the Browns, in this crazy year, make it to their first ever Super Bowl? That would be, honestly, that'd be really kind of cool to see. Because, the Chiefs don't look unstoppable, and the Ravens don't look unstoppable. So, we'll see. Anything can happen. All right. Well, if you love to play video games as much as I do, please be sure to check out my other podcast, The Gaming Outsider, which can be heard at the same places you'll listen to this very show. This week, we're discussing video games based on literature and what games we'd like to see based off of the written word. So be sure to check that out. We're also sharing our experiences with the latest game in the Crash Bandicoot series, if you remember that from the PlayStation era. I do. And it's Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time is what they called it. It's a lot of fun. Anyway, our website is thegamingoutsider.com, where you can read all of our reviews, find all of our episodes on there, and maybe even a little editorial here and there. So be sure to check that out. Also, our website for our new handmade Packers Fan Podcast masks. Yes, they're handmade by me. I don't say this to toot my own horn, but I sent a couple to somebody this past week. They got them in the mail, and he said it was the most comfortable mask that he's ever had. And this was not Wayne, but it was somebody else. So the website for that is thegamingoutsider.com/thego-shop. And we got a whole marketplace set up there. You can pay by credit card, and I will ship them out to you personally. And they are sewn by me personally as well, too. So be sure to check that out. That's a win-win-win. And if more people wear masks, especially ones with the Packers Fan Podcast logo on them, the sooner we can get this pandemic over with and get back to going to Packers games. Just
absolutely.
Thought I'd mention that. You can also hear me every week providing unique episode-specific voiceover intros for my buddy Mark Dacote's Resourceful Designer podcast. Mark is up to 232 episodes of The Resourceful Designer, which means he has hired me to record 232 different intros for his podcast.
Wow.
It's amazing that he's come up with that many different fun facts about himself, but they're all lighthearted and fun, and I'm honored to be a small part of his show over the past week. I was also hired to narrate a client's ebook, turning it into an audiobook. That's a bit of an undertaking, but it's going well. We're almost done with that puppy. More details on that later once I'm allowed to share the specifics. MVPs are awesome. We love MVPs. Will Aaron Rodgers be an MVP this year? It's looking like it at this point. With the Patreon system to help support the podcast, it's a value for value model. Whatever you feel the show is worth, if it's in your budget, you can go ahead and support us at patreon.com. You can become a patron of the show. All of your pledges are reinvested into making the show better for you. MP3 hosting, audio editing software, other things like that, like Squadcast to record the show with to make sure we don't accidentally lose a recording and have to start all over. We don't want to have to do that. So it's all very helpful. Bryant, we want to thank you and say go Pack Go for your MVP support of the podcast at the Willie Wood $24 level in Patreon. And go Pack Go and thank yous to the kind and generous folks at the Texas-only Green Bay Packers Fanatics group. Your AR12 $12 monthly Patreon pledge really helps us out. Thank you.
$4 Brett Favre-inspired monthly Patreon support calls for more Go Pack Goes as well, so special shout-out to Jeff Summerfield and Lawrence Harvey. And at the Curly Lambeau $1 level podcast support, Go Pack Goes to Beth Mintink, Hank Davis from the TPE Network of Podcasts, Remy La Victoire, Matt Haig, and Joe Christensen. Now, if you'd like to help us out as well, you too can financially support the podcast at a level to match your budget and maybe get some cool Packers Fan Podcast logo merch. Details can be found at patreon.com/Packers Fan Podcast. Thank you so much, and go Pack Go.
And the Unofficial Packers Fan Podcast is not yet affiliated with the NFL or the Green Bay Packers. It could be, though. Media at Packers Fan Podcast is the email to send your messages to make that happen.
You can also follow us on Twitter at PackersFanPod. My personal Twitter is at GoCastScott, and Wayne's is at Wayne Henderson. And do us a favor, tell a few of your friends to give a listen to your Packers Fan Podcast.
Get your feedback in right after the Packers beat the Bucs. Be part of next week's show. Again, 920-3PACK-GO, 920-3PACK-GO. Or record it on your phone and attach it to an email at feedback@PackersFanPodcast.com.
Also, be sure to subscribe in your podcast player of choice so you don't miss an episode. And since the Bucs game is just days away, here are the Texas-only Green Bay Packers fanatics to send us out fired up.
This is Dawn down here in Texas, a.k.a. Granny Cheese.
Hi, I'm James.
Hi, I'm Kim.
Hi, I'm Melissa.
Hi, I'm Susan.
Hi, I'm Carrie.
Hi, I'm Lisa Montgomery, and we want to say,
Go Pack Go!